Hello and welcome to Diecast Restos. I'm Jason and today I'm taking this Maisto Dodge Viper and I'm going to be turning it into a replica of another YouTuber's car. This time it's Adam C of the eponymous channel, who I'm a big fan of. If you don't know him, his work is definitely worth checking out. His coverage of car shows and the car scene in general in the UK is second to none. Here's one of Adam's glorious snaps of his Viper. One of the main components for getting this build right are the wheels. This set of GTS 5 spokes from Creative 164 are perfect for the job. So first up, I need to dismantle the Maisto model, which has a really nice interior. I love the moulded wheel on the back that matches my C164 set. This and the superior scaling are the main reasons why I chose the Maisto over the 1:59 scale Matchbox version. So the poster pin-up blue with white stripes 8-litre V10 Dodge Viper has been one of Adam's dream cars since childhood. Like many of us, he had the Burago 1:24 scale model in that very same colour scheme. He bought his Viper relatively recently, in May this year, and it now sits sweetly alongside his Cobra in its matching colour scheme. Right now though, I'm preparing the casting for reassembly later on, ahead of removing that 30-odd year old paint, ready for a fresh new coat of metallic blue and new white stripes. The Dodge Viper was already a bit of a sensation when it arrived in 1992. But when the SR2 or second generation turned up in 1996, it took the formula to another level. Chrysler's engineers refined the raw original RT10, making it faster, more capable and more aggressive. It kept the low-slung wide stance, but the bodywork was revised to make it smoother and more aerodynamic. The side-running exhausts, long hood and unmistakable Viper grille all carried over. Inside, things were as raw as ever. There was no fancy tech, just that low seating position, chunky steering wheel and an array of basic gauges amongst a sea of black plastic trim. Expense was spared on the luxuries in favour of the magnificent 8-litre V10 dubbed the Magnum. While it is based on a Chrysler LA V8 that was first introduced in 1964, its aluminium block castings were actually designed by Lamborghini. It cranked out 450 horsepower at 490 pounds-foot of torque, propelling the Viper from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 4 seconds, and giving it a 180 mile per hour plus top speed. Chrysler opted to bring major improvements to the suspension and chassis, making the car handle far better than its predecessor. The lightweight, tubular frame and independent suspension on all 4 corners made it more stable and precise at high speeds, but this snake still bites. It wasn't nicknamed the Widowmaker for no reason. Major new options on the SR2 included the 1996 GTS Hardtop Coupe, which Adam's car is and this model is based on. The double bubble roof and racing stripes were iconic features of the GTS, but it wasn't simply a cosmetic upgrade. It was a full performance upgrade over the RT10. Over 90% of the parts differed between the two. The GTS proved to be a force in motorsport, with it racking up wins at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Daytona and countless other events. Just over 10,000 units of the American Brute were built between 1996 and 2002. Its replacement was the ZB generation in 2003 that had 2 iterations covering 7 years. After a 3-year hiatus between 2010 and 2013, the Viper returned for the 5th and final VX version. This was a slow seller and the iconic badge was dropped in 2017. The real joy in the Viper, for me anyway, stems from the SR2. It was always a go-to pick in Gran Turismo growing up. It couldn't be anything other than the standout blue with white stripes for me either, until I graduated onto the 2000 24 Hours of Le Mans Team Orica winner in Gran Turismo 3. That car was red with white stripes, PlayStation sponsorship, and the yellow tinted lighting. Superb. Now in my videos, I usually like to give a bit of background and history on the casting I'm working on. However, there's very little online about the introduction dates and variations of this Maisto model. It's further confused by the fact that it was produced in larger scales by Maisto, which proved to be more popular. From what I can gather, earlier models like this came pretty exclusively in this colour scheme. However, it did change to white with blue stripes, but this had the huge rear wing bolted on. Later iterations of the casting turned red with white stripes or yellow with black stripes. But by then, I think most Maisto models had lost their interiors and had their windows blacked out. It's a shame because the interior is one of the nicest parts of this model, even if there isn't that much detailing to do in there, since this and the real thing are made out of the same material. So for the colour tinted exterior lighting, I lay down a base of Maisto liquid chrome paint and literally draw over it with a Sharpie. During my 5 years doing this hobby, I've found that this method, teamed with shading using Citadel Gloss Null Oil, offers up a realistic, deeper lighting effect, especially on complicated cast clusters. It's much better than direct flat paint application in my opinion. The model reassembles using a rear tongue and slot fitment. Since that black plastic would be partially exposed after the stripes have gone on, I need to turn it blue. Again, the chrome and Sharpie method did the work for me there. Now though, I'm dousing the lighting with the Citadel gloss I mentioned a moment ago. It also works well to darken deeper cast areas like that very recognisable front grille, as well as these slats above the wheel arches. It really helps to add definition where detail might otherwise be lost. I chose to use white decals instead of painting on the white stripes. This was a time-consuming process, but I think the ultimate result looks better than how a mask-sprayed effort might have looked. It was particularly good fun trying to tuck in the stripes into the grille area. I'm going to shut up for a bit and let you enjoy my work in peace. If you want to skip the decal application, jump to around 9 minutes 30 in the video. With the stripes all on board, I use Mr. Mark's softer solution, which helps to firmly lock them all in. The excess moisture from it is rolled out with a cotton bud. After I've allowed them a little time to set, I move on to the finer decals, namely the Viper badge at the front, the brake light badge at the rear, and the registration plate of N3 VPR. I've covered over some of that grille shading with my white decals, so I add a bit more over the top of them before sealing the deal with a clear coat or 3. One last thing I forgot before reassembling was to colour the hood vents in black. So these were the parts that make up Maisto's Viper. The first item reinserted is the transparency for the cabin windows and those nearly forgotten hood vents. I then put in the interior, but I'm a bit too hasty as the base needs to be connected to the interior piece before slotting in. There are a couple of moulded plastic posts to aid in this process. Once they are firmly connected, I can give reinsertion a go. Rear slot fitment first, then that front rivet post. That's secured with a 3mm M2 screw and washer before I finalise the build with the twin central exit exhausts. I say finalise, but I can never be too sure that the model is actually finished until I have chatted with the intended recipient. And I can't be too careful after Alex Kirsten changed the plate on Phil the MX-5 now, can I? Surely. So I sent Adam a message on Instagram with some pics of the completed build. What are the chances? I had flashbacks of this moment. Not to make too much of a drama out of it, but it was easily rectified on both counts. The new plate slides on nicely, and this time I've actually finished this build. This was how the Maisto Viper looked to begin with. As I said earlier, it's a far better scale model than Matchbox's, and one that would suit a new set of boots. I wanted to gift this one to one of my top 10 favourite automotive content creators on YouTube, Adam C, who owns a blue with white stripes Viper. It's not a wild custom this one, more of a tasteful OEM remake. So let's take a look at how it turned out. Standouts for me are those truly brilliant Creative 164 GTS wheels first and foremost. They completely transform the model into a replica. I enjoyed picking out the lighting and exterior detailing on this one, which for me usually means it's a well-cast model. The interior too is great, especially that spare wheel in the back. The Tamiya metallic blue I used is lighter than what Maisto had used, but I think it is actually closer to that of the real thing, aside from the oversized metal flake. The stripe decals were an ordeal to affix, but turned out looking even better than I'd first anticipated. But what do you think? Tell me in the comments and leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. I hope Adam likes the latest addition to his fleet, and that this and the real thing share many happy miles together. Stick around for some more photos of the finished article, but all that leaves me to say is thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.